Greetings, my fellow financial ninjas, and welcome to part 2 of how to find great tenants for your property. If you have not already seen part 1, click on the link in the description and you can see the part 1 before you start on this one. In this particular part, I'm going to talk about the next steps. So once you have had your open house and you've shown the property to a few people and they have shown keen interest in renting your property, the next step would be to give them the application form. And this application form should be given only to serious people that are actually interested in renting the property. And the application should ask details such as their social security number, their name and employment history, and their current income, how many people are going to stay in the house, and the references for the past landlord. And along with this, you should also request their driver's license or any other form of ID that they may have. I also request the bank statement for the past 2 months, and if it's a small business owner and if they don't have an employer, then you can request their tax information for the business that they had. And if they are employed, then obviously you can ask for their pay stubs for the past 2 months. In the application, make sure that you inform the prospective tenants that you are going to run credit and background checks so that and get their signature so that you protect yourself from any potential litigation for running unauthorized background or credit check. The next step in the process is running the actual credit and background check, and for this I use a website called as cozy.co. I have no affiliation or anything with them. It's just that I've been using them for a long time and they've been great and they provide pretty comprehensive reports. In order to set up an account, all you have to do is go on cozy.co and set up a landlord account with them so that you can start accepting applications and run credit history, credit checks and background checks. They provide you with all sorts of checks like, as I mentioned, credit check, background check, criminal and eviction history, and so on and so forth. So it can give you a pretty good idea of the profile of the prospective tenant. Now, in terms of interpreting the information regarding the actual tenants, I go by the actual tenants' history and their overall profile. So if somebody has had a foreclosure back in 2009, 2000 to 2012, then I'm not going to reject that tenant because of that, because it was a pretty harsh recession and a lot of people went through foreclosure. So if there are any valid reasons for something derogatory on their on the background that comes up, I am ready to definitely at least listen to what they have to say instead of just outright rejecting them. I do make it a point that the credit score should be over 650. That is something that I don't like to compromise on. I think 650 is a decent credit. Some of the people have even higher standards, such as 700, but I think 650 is a lot more reasonable. That means that the person has been pretty diligent in paying their bills. Then the next step is to contact the previous landlord. If the tenant is not willing to give the previous landlord's information, then that's a pretty major red flag in my opinion, because if they haven't had a good relationship with the previous landlord, obviously they want to avoid giving out that information. So make sure you get that information and verify all the information provided, because a lot of times people might try to cheat the system by giving a number for their friend and say that that person was their landlord, and so what you can do is when you give them a call, you can sort of verify that information by asking them about the property. So when they are chatting about how great the tenant is, you can just kind of throw in some random question, how big is the property, or how big was the property, or when was it built, or something like that, or how long have you had it, so that it kind of throws them off a little bit, and you can spot if somebody is trying to pretend that they are the landlord. Then there are other questions that you can ask, such as whether they are paying the rents on time, they are if they had any problems with them, and also ask the person if they would recommend that particular tenant. So once you've checked all of that information and there's no red flags, then you can move on to the next check, which is contacting the tenant's employer. So even though they have provided the paycheck, you still might want to contact the tenant's employer and check the and verify employment. And here again, you can use the same technique. If somebody is trying to pretend, asking their friends to pretend that they are the employer, then you can do the same thing that I mentioned with the landlord, and try to find out whether the person actually works over there. The next step is conducting an interview with your prospective tenants. Now, it doesn't have to be a formal interview. It could be a chat when they came for the open house, or when they came during the showing. So find out how the personalities match. As you're talking to the applicant, try to get a read on their personality and decide if you can be in a long-term relationship, a business relationship with them. It's also good to rent to tenants that are responsible and punctual. So when they were coming for the showing, was that person punctual, or did he or she show up late? How were they dressed, or did they come wearing some sloppy clothes? This might say something about whether or not they will take care of the property. Do they already have complaints about the place? It's better to rent someone who actually likes the property up front than somebody who starts with complaints. Lay out all the ground rules and assess the person's response. If you sense some kind of a defensiveness or other attitude issues, think twice before renting. My philosophy is that I would rather have the place empty than renting out the tenant to the wrong tenant. And I have learned it the hard way. In the initial days when I had my property, I got burned pretty bad. So I'm very careful on who I'm going to rent out my property to. And the last one, which also could be the most important one, is checking their social media profile. So search for their profile on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on Twitter, and try to find out information. If they have provided any information, you can verify those information by going to their social media profile, and it actually gives you a good idea on the overall personality of the person, and you can also verify some of the information that they may have told. For example, on LinkedIn, if they've said they're working for a certain employer, that you can kind of verify them with that by going to the LinkedIn profile, and so on and so forth. So I highly recommend Googling that person and finding out any and all information about that person. So that concludes all the different steps that I take in order to find a prospective tenant. It's a pretty comprehensive list. By all means, it's not the only list, but that is something that has worked well for me, and I have had great tenants that pay on time and take good care of the property. And I also, as a landlord, I make sure that I take care of all the issues right away. If there's anything that is not functioning, I make sure that I send my handyman right away and take care of the problem that they may have. I hope you liked the video. If you did, please subscribe to my channel and hit that like button. If you know anybody, your friend who is trying to invest in becoming a investment property owner for the first time, this video can help them avoid a lot of pitfalls of finding a tenant. So that's it for now. I will see you in the next video. Bye.